Welcome into Rogue Football. I'm your host, Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We have got Senior Bowl ballers and fallers, 3 Senior Bowl practices in the books. No more practice for the rest of the week. They do have the game on Saturday. Obviously, a lot of guys will not be participating in the game, but we've got ballers and fallers. A lot of guys that really balled out and, in my opinion, helped their draft stock quite a bit. We're going to get into those guys. And a few who I have a little bit more questions about than answers coming out of the Senior Bowl. Unfortunately, we will talk about those guys as well. We'll start with the ballers, but if you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Really appreciate y'all being here. You just got us to over 1,000 subscribers this week. We're now fully monetized on the channel. So again, thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate y'all. All right, starting with these ballers. I'm kind of going in order. The top guys, in my opinion, the guys that made themselves the most money, is who we will start with here and then just kind of work our way throughout the rest of the guys. I think Roman Wilson made a lot of money. I think he came into this with most people probably having him as maybe a late day 2 player, a 3rd round type of grade. The speed and quickness and route running efficiency that he brings to the field, it's crazy. Like, this guy, no one could keep up with him. Quinyon Mitchell, who was easily the best corner out there, he is a baller on our list, one of the top guys. He couldn't keep up with Roman Wilson. In the competitive period at the end of practice, he called out Roman Wilson, wanted to cover him. Roman Wilson, he couldn't get close to him. And then Wilson makes an incredible catch on the sideline, one-handed. This is a guy that when you watch his tape at Michigan, obviously the numbers aren't huge. They didn't have a big-time passing offense. They didn't pass the ball a lot. When they did throw the football to Roman Wilson, he usually came down with it. He usually was able to go up for contested catches despite not being a big guy. He's a special athlete. He's a special route runner. He's got incredible speed. He is tough, and he has consistent football IQ and hands. I think this is a guy that is easily risen up to a 2nd round prospect because of all of those traits he brings to the table. And I think the combine is going to further cement him as a 2nd round guy. Javon Baker, UCF wide receiver. He's over 6'1". He's almost 210 pounds. Guys couldn't keep up with him. The way he runs routes, he's a big guy, but he also has those loose hips, the fluidity, right? A guy that can create separation at the top of the stem and leave guys in the dust. And then you also have a player here who can go up and get these contested catches. You saw him coming down in the red zone with a big time pass catch, like going up over the defender, high pointing the football, getting his feet down inbounds. I think Javon Baker solidified himself as a day 2 prospect. Now look, there are a ton of wide receivers in this class. And so maybe guys get pushed down the board further than they should. But for me, Javon Baker is going to have a 2nd round, probably, grade. We'll see how he tests. Obviously, you got to be able to run, which I think he can. This is a good football player out of UCF, transferred there from Alabama. Darius Robinson, he might have made himself the most money out of anyone this week. I think I already had a 2nd round grade on him, but a lot of draft media, a lot of folks, when you look around the web, had more of a mid-round, maybe early day 3, late day 2 type of grade on him. There's no way. There's now 1st round buzz on him from everyone you talk to, late 1st round. And when you look at teams 25 through 32, their teams in the draft order, those are teams that like big, physical, athletic defensive linemen. And that's exactly what Darius Robinson is. This is a guy that has length, strength, positional versatility up front. I think in base, you want him out there as a defensive end or edge. When you're getting into these clear pass rushing situations, you move him around. Have a good time. He can weaponize his hands. The hand usage really grew from 2022 to 2023, and then even further at the Senior Bowl. He dominated all 3 days. Obviously, Ladd McConkey and Ricky Pearsall were great, but that was expected, so I don't know that they necessarily made money, but they more cemented what you already knew about them. Another guy beyond Darius Robinson that maybe just like Darius Robinson made himself a ton of money, Adisa Isaac. This is a player out of Penn State, obviously teammates with Chop Robinson. They were a very good edge duo. But what I saw from Adisa Isaac on tape was someone who was clearly athletic, clearly very strong, clearly high motor, work ethic type of guy. Really good run defender. A guy who was opportunistic as a pass rusher, not winning quickly. in Mobile, he was winning quickly as a pass rusher. He was almost untouchable at times by some really good guys. I mean, he gave Talise Fuaga everything he could handle. Kingsley Suamatia, Dominique Pooney, those two guys couldn't touch him. I mean, he was winning around the edge. He was winning with speed to power. He looked like he had, really learned some pass rush moves. Really liked what I saw from Adisa Isaac. This is a guy you already knew had the base down skill set. You thought you probably had to develop a lot as a pass rusher. I'm not sure you have to develop all that much as a pass rusher. Yeah, you want to add more pass rush moves to the arsenal. Make sure you have the pass rush plan down. But you saw a lot more in Mobile than you saw on tape from him, in my opinion, in terms of that pass rush. So very exciting player. I think he is definitely a second rounder at this point. I don't think there's any way he falls out of the second round, and it could be early part of the second round versus late. So Jackson Powers Johnson, another player for me, was already a first round prospect, but I think everybody else is on board with that as well now. He can play center. He can play guard. He's over 330 pounds. No, he doesn't have the longest arms. No, he is not the most compact center, which you're usually looking for guys that are going to win the natural leverage battle. It doesn't matter. He's big. He's strong. He has great hands. He's always resetting. He's always able to recover. Even if he loses to start a rep, you never finish against him, ever. And full effort every single play. Big time motor when it comes to getting down the football field in screens, run blocking, all that fun stuff. And a guy who you want him on your football team. Just turned 21 years old. Braden Fisk out of Florida State. Not the best athlete in the world. He does have quickness. He does have a pass rush arsenal. Has a bag of tricks. A guy who, like Jackson Powers Johnson, no one is going to out-effort him on the football field. Like, you can see him stall out to start a pass rush. He's going to keep working, and he's going to work through you. I love this guy. I think he should be a late day 2 pick, third round, even though he's not going to test incredible. He's not the biggest or strongest. That's a guy that you want on your football team. That is a football player. Jaheim Bell, I don't think he was super consistent, but the tight ends in general were not consistent. What he showed me is what he showed in his college career. And he just did it in a new setting at a different level, which was just being a guy that I think could probably be a third target in a really good high volume passing offense in the NFL. He's not a true tight end. He's not a big time blocker or anything like that. But can you use him to chip and then also get him the football at all three levels of the field? I think you can. He's a good athlete. He's got an impressive overall skill set as a receiving tight end. Christian Haynes, the guard center prospect out of UConn. Look, I did not like what I saw at center. That's okay. He can be guard for me all day. He's 6'2", has almost 34-inch arms. The proportional length is unbelievable. The effort and attitude and just willingness to go out there and get the job done. And this was a jump in competition for him coming from UConn. It did not look like it. He was a tone setter. He's a guy that knows how to use his hands, knows how to use his frame to win blocks, both as a run blocker and a pass protector. I want him on my football team. Ray Davis, looking at these running backs, I think he's the guy for me that has the most ability to be a 3-down starting back in the NFL. He is 5'9" or 5'8", 220 pounds. But he moves incredibly well at that size. I'm always going to like running backs with a low center of gravity. I want guys that are compact, low to the ground. Ray Davis is that, but he's got plenty of juice to bring to the table as well. Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, he's a little bit of a bigger back, but he's fleet-footed as well. He has some incredible jump cuts, making people miss in the hole. I think he has a chance to be a starter in this league. Dejon Edwards out of Georgia, not necessarily thinking of him as a full-time starter, but a 1B type of back, has the juice, has the contact balance, the low center of gravity, has enough mass on his frame to hold up, in my opinion. I think he can do it all for you as a running back. I think he has the receiving chops as well. Rasheen Ali out of Marshall was not there all week, but when he was there, looked really good. Another guy kind of like Dejon Edwards, a little bit over 200 pounds, probably not going to be your full-time starting back, but somebody who can be a 1B and do some incredible things for you out there on the football field. Quinyon Mitchell, as I mentioned, the best defensive back in Mobile by far. A guy, already had him in the first round. I think now everyone is going to have him in the first round. And now the question isn't whether he's in the first round. It's like, is he the top corner in this class? Because the questions were not anything about what he could do physically. You saw on tape how impressive he is: size, athleticism, length, and ball skills. It was, can he play press? How does that challenge? How does he attack that challenge? And he was all over it this week, all over it. Super physical, did a great job. I think that Quinyon Mitchell is now, again, it's not a question of whether he's a first round player. It's like, is he CB1? For me, it's going to be tough to get there, but he's up there. One of the best corners in this class. Cam Hart as a zone corner, big, physical, has great length, has good eyes, for zone coverage. Sit back there, watch what the quarterback's doing, break on the ball, play physical, play tough. I don't think you want him in man coverage. Don't think he has the fluidity for that. But in zone, I think Cam Hart can definitely be a starter in this league. Kyrie Jackson is a press man corner. He really showed out on day 3, in my opinion. Had himself a super competitive day. Another Alabama transfer. Kyrie Jackson is 6'3", over 200 pounds, has really nice quick feet, has good athleticism overall, and the competitive fire that he brings to the football field is really what you want to see at corner, especially from a press man corner. Max Melton out of Rutgers, he was flying out there. He has some really good speed. He has length. He's 5'11", but he has 32-inch arms. Really competitive football player. I think he's going to have a chance to potentially be a nickel, potentially be an outside corner, do it all type of guy for you. Chris Abrams-Drain out of Missouri, same thing. A guy that not the biggest, not the strongest, but he uses his length really well, super competitive and sticky in coverage. Jalen Simpson, an undersized safety from Auburn who used to play corner. Maybe he could be a hybrid defender for you. Play some nickel, play some safety, play some outside. He looked really good in my opinion. Javon Bullard from Georgia, who I think is another nickel defender, might be the best nickel defender in this class. I thought he showed out consistently. This is a guy that does not miss a ton of tackles, makes a lot of plays on the football, a really impressive potential nickel safety type of guy. Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky, he's a corner. He was just really sticky, never giving up anything easy, never letting guys get wide open on him. I was impressed by him. Spencer Rattler and Bo Nix, I think both showed really impressive arm talent. I think that these guys have quick releases. They get the ball out quick, and they read the field well, and they just have arms that can get the ball anywhere they need to on the football field. I think you saw that. Obviously not a ton of deep shots in Mobile this week, but they were the two most impressive quarterbacks in my opinion. Roger Rosengarten, a guy who struggled down the stretch a little bit in the playoffs for the University of Washington, but he didn't lose like any reps, I don't think. I think this is a starting tackle in the NFL, could probably play some guard for you as well. This is a just really no-nonsense tackle guard prospect that I think can just go out there and win reps, protect your quarterback, get some movement in the running game. Love what he brings to the field. Kingsley Suamataia, a guy who on tape to me was very unrefined. I saw some reps where he was using his hands at an extremely high level, marrying them up with his feet and doing a good job. Wasn't the most consistent week from him, but I think that he either cemented himself where a lot of people believed he would go, or, like in my opinion, probably raised his stock a little bit. Because this is a guy that has unbelievable athleticism and physical traits. You see the technical side of it catching up. That's what you want to see. Brandon Coleman out of TCU at guard, played left tackle for them last year, has played some guard for them. I think that he is going to be a type of guard. Long arms, very physical, good athlete for a guard prospect. I think he's going to be the type of guy that can come in and end up being a long-time starter in the NFL. Now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about some fallers. Those were all my ballers, and there's even more players to talk about that did an excellent job, but those are the ones that stood out the most to me. Now, looking at these fallers, and I didn't even want to do this, but I know a lot of people asked for it. So starting with the wide receivers, Devontae Walker. This is a guy that on tape, I don't think he showed like below average hands at all. But in Mobile, it was a coin flip whether he was going to come down with the football or not. This is a guy, though, I don't want to go too overboard because, again, when you have not a great week of practice in a new setting, that's not a death knell. That's not something that's like, oh gosh, we can't draft this guy now. And the thing about Tez Walker is when I watch him as a route runner, as a mover, And then I look at the physical profile. I see a lot of similarities to Dontavion Wicks last year out of Virginia, right? Around 200 pounds, very good length, leggy, but they just kind of move the same way as route runners. They're able to create separation with big, long strides, but stay low to the ground. I not only see some Dontavion Wicks, I also see some Brandon Ayuk. And the thing about Tez Walker, he's not quite as big as either of those guys, but I think he's a good bit faster than both of them. And when you look back at the tape, he is not a inconsistent hands guy. I think he can catch the football at a high level. It wasn't a good week for him this week, but I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to say this guy's now like a day 3 pick. I still think he's a day 2 guy. I think he's going to bring speed to the table. And I think he's going to bring that route running ability, the ability to create separation like those 2 guys I just mentioned. And Brandon Ayuk has developed him into one of the best route runners in the league. He has more length than Tez Walker and Dontavion Wicks, but in the same mold, in my opinion. And I think Tez Walker can become that, and maybe even more, again, because he has more speed than both of those guys, I believe. And Dontavion Wicks had a really nice rookie year for the Green Bay Packers. Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, did have his best day on day 3, his most competitive day. But this is a player that I think doesn't do a good job separating through contact, even though he kind of invites contact at the top of the stem. I did not see the explosiveness I wanted to see. On tape at USC, he's catching a lot of passes from Caleb Williams, but I wanted more answers to the questions I had, and I just didn't get those from Brendan Rice. And so this is a guy that I do think can be competitive at the catch point, a guy that will work hard, a guy that says all the right things, but for me, didn't really do much to answer the questions I already had. Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. He did not have like a horrible week by any stretch, but I was hoping to see more consistency from him. And he's an older prospect, had a massive season at South Carolina in 2023, but he needed to show consistency as a route runner. He didn't really do that. And for me, it's just, for every Deebo Samuel and DK Metcalf, there's a lot of guys that end up not really working out, that are big, oversized, physical receivers. I want Xavier Legette to be a guy that makes it, that does a good job, but you talk about he couldn't really produce at all until he was 23 years old in college. I know he used to play a lot of quarterback in high school and converted to full-time wide receiver, all that stuff. But for me, in a loaded wide receiver class, this is a guy that just lacks a lot of refinement. I don't know how consistent he can be early on. The good thing for him is he can be a special teamer for you. He can be a returner. He can be a gunner. And so he's going to provide value in that regard. He did that at South Carolina. But I'm just not sure that I can sit here and say that I think he's going to be like ready to be a starting wide receiver early on. I'm not saying a wide receiver 1. I'm saying a starter at all. Like a wide receiver 2, a slot. I don't know. Maybe he can be a slot for you early in his career. We'll see. I'm rooting for him because I really like the kid. I like his story. I like the way he plays the game. He can definitely high point the football. He can definitely run like the wind. He's physical, but I think there's question marks. Patrick Paul out of Houston. This is a guy, he's big. He's got great length, very little refinement. And the difference between like him and Tyler Guyton for me is Guyton has incredible athleticism at his size. A rare profile. Patrick Paul, to me, he's not a great athlete. And he's sloppy with his footwork. He's sloppy with his hands. I don't think he did anything to help himself. Like, this is a guy that some people talk about in the first round. To me, much more borderline end of day 2, end of day 3 type of player. Yes, the physical traits are there, but I just don't see it at all from a technical standpoint or really an athleticism flexibility standpoint. Kalen King out of Penn State, it's been a bad year for him, right? Coming off the 2022 season, was one of the highest rated corners in college football, and it just has not been a good year. Get to Mobile and doesn't look like he can keep up with anybody, right? So that's pretty unfortunate for him. Maybe getting into the combine, he can really show out and make people remember why he was so highly valued heading into the 2023 campaign. But right now, looks like it's a bit of a free fall for Kalen King, a guy who a lot of people thought could be a first round pick, less than a year ago. Ladarius Henderson out of Michigan, I didn't have like huge expectations for him, but I consistently saw a guy that needs more strength, a lot more strength. Like he was, this is pretty bad. He was one of the guys, holding the bags in one of these little individual warm up drills, and I can't remember who it was, but they weren't even trying to. They knocked his ass over. He was not ready for this week, in my opinion. And when you talk about teamwork, one-on-ones, even just being a bag holder in an individual drill, Ladarius Henderson's got to get a lot more strength. The next two guys are guys I'm surprised about that we will wrap it up with because I really do like their tape. Jordan Morgan, the tackle out of Arizona. We know he came in with shorter arms, under 33-inch arms. He struggled. I think the lack of length showed up, and I don't think he's an elite athlete. I think he's a good athlete, but the lack of length showed up. There were times on tape where he showed really good hand usage. There were other times where they were outside, not high and inside on the chest plate in these past sets. You look at what happened in Mobile. It wasn't awful. Like he wasn't one of the worst players out there. This is a guy that's talked about as a borderline first round pick. I have him as an early second, prior to this week. I don't think it was a great week for him. And now, a lot of people have said, kick him inside to guard. You're going to cover up a lot of the issues with the length, etc. And maybe that is what has to happen with him. I thought that he could play tackle coming into this week. I'm not nearly as convinced of that exiting the week. Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon, and another guy. He had some fantastic reps. There's no question about that. He has awesome reps on tape as well. But too often, he stalls out. After the first move doesn't win, there's just no activity with his hands. He's just kind of dead in the water. You saw that a little bit on tape. You saw that at the Senior Bowl. A guy that I really believed he would be better suited to be more of an interior player, but came to the Senior Bowl at 272 pounds. He was listed at like 290 at Oregon. At 272 pounds, you cannot play on the interior and base. You just can't do it. So I'm a little confused about what to do with his projection now, because I don't think I can leave him inside and base. I don't know that there's enough juice to win consistently on the edge as a pass rusher. I just have more questions than I did on Brandon Dorlus entering the week. So we'll see how it plays out for him. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. I really hate talking about the fallers, but a lot of people were asking me what I saw, so had to give my opinion there. Hope all these guys are able to rebound, have good combines and great NFL careers. I'm not rooting against any of them. But if you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.